Hello, and welcome to DSLBD's weekly Lunch and Learn series. We host this live from the MLK Library in Chinatown, where DSLBD staff are here every week on Wednesdays from 10 to 4 to provide free technical assistance to any DC-based business. Today, we are incredibly excited to have with us some of our colleagues from DSLBD from the DC Procurement Technical Assistance Center. I'm going to turn things right over to Keith Howard from the DC-PTAC so he can tell you more about what DC-PTAC does and how they can help your business.
Okay, thank you so very much, and I want to thank you and the entire NOED team for this opportunity to present how to become a PTAC client. And we're in a wonderful facility thanks to the NOED team. We're at the MLK Library. If you haven't had a chance to get out here, it's a wonderful experience and a wonderful place to be. So let me just dive right into the DC-PTAC. There are over 100 PTACs all over the country and the territories. The DC-PTAC is located within the DC Department of Small and Local Business Development. For us, it's all about the team, and our team's led by Milton Goodman in attendance. Shout out to Milton. And then, of course, our wonderful hostess specialists, Sheila, Vanessa, Earl, and myself, we do the no-cost advisory services. Technical assistance. And the glue that keeps us all together is Michelle Harris. So for many of you, Michelle will be your first point of contact as far as the registration process for becoming a PTAC client. And I will get into that.
Jump in real quick. Your audio is going in and out just a little bit. I don't know if you were using a headset or if you can check that because it's going up and down just a little bit.
Okay. How's this? Is this better?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay, great. Good. So yeah, I was just talking about it's all part of the team for us, and our leader, Milton Goodman, who's in attendance today, and gave Milton a shout out. And then, of course, our incredible team. Sheila has been in the DC-PTAC since day one. So if you're looking for an answer or procurement to a procurement question, she's going to find it. Vanessa and Earl are veterans, and we're thankful for their service. So if you're looking for anything in the FAR and you need an answer about the FAR, Vanessa's going to have that answer. And if it's anything finance related, QuickBooks, pricing, that sort of thing, Earl's going to have it. Then, of course, there's myself. I'm a graduated 8A. I also spent time in the certification division, certifying CBEs. And, of course, Michelle Harris is the glue that keeps us together. And for most of you, your first point of contact in the registration process to become a PTAC client. This is the way we used to meet pre-pandemic. That is Milton Goodman, our leader there. And we would meet in person and we would do outreach, meet with businesses and offer personalized counseling and also give that competitive insight for navigating the government procurement process. Now, the one good thing about the PTAC is, there are many good things, but one that I like is we can work within the DC government procurement processes or the federal government's government contracting processes. What's the value in the PTAC? Well, first of all, as a former small business owner, I know no cost is important. And so that's what we offer. No cost advisory services for federal government contracting. We also will assist you with contract acquisitions and ruling, strategize you for better contracting positioning. That's probably my favorite thing to do, is the strategy part, especially for our CBE community, to really, help them enhance marketing their CBE. One-on-one counseling. So that's how we start. We start with an initial assessment to see where the firm is from a procurement readiness standpoint. And that one-on-one counseling, that first initial assessment will guide us how often we meet, what are we meeting about, and just gives us a real strategy. Assistance in identifying your value proposition. We also start there with your business plan and capability statement. Those two documents are required in order to be a PTAC client. And then lastly, we provide navigation instructions toward contract opportunities. So again, whether that's a SAM registration on the federal side or working through the CBE and of course, the Office of Contractor Procurement's transparency portal, we can help you to strategize and navigate. through the government procurement process. So some of the services we offer, you heard me mention outreach before. So of course, we do PTAC presentations, which is what we're doing right now. We were doing these pre-pandemic all over the community, but now, of course, we have to keep them virtual. We too belong to different organizations where we can get training and bring that training back to our clients through conferences. Education's a big part of what we do. I believe our training's the best, and I think it's the best because of the people who do it. That is usually our team. If our team's not doing the training, we will reach out to one of our government partners, whether it's federal or local. We'll also do webinars like this one when we find a topic that we think our client base needs. I know Sheila just did a great one on social media and how to use social media to grow your business. And that was very well received. Certification assistance. So you see in the slide, there's several certifications that we offer assistance, the SBA 8A program, HubZone will help you get SAM registered and so on and so forth. One of them that's not listed is the CBE. And so we will help you with that process. If you come to us and that's something that you want to do, we can help you get that CBE application prepared. Marketing, of course, market research. We show you how to do the market research. One of the things I tell my clients that I like to do is you already know yourself and you know your firm, but do you know your competition? And that's one of the things that we spend a lot of time with. And I think it helps out in the long haul with pricing and your technical proposals. Of course, pre-contract management. We'll look at a solicitation. If you found one out there, send us that link. We'll take a look at it. And based on what we know and based on prior meetings with you, we'll help you make that decision. You know, is this a bid or a no bid for us? Of course, there's some proposal review. So if you've found the solicitation and you've done the proposal, we'll take a look at it, take a look at your executive summary, take a look, and just make sure that you're answering the mail of what the government's need is. Post-contract award, again, you know, two things can happen in post-contract award. You can win or lose, right? So if you lose, we need to find out why by doing a debrief and making sure that you get in front of that contracting officer to find out, you know, where you were weak in that proposal. And then, of course, if you win, we got to figure out how do we do a kickoff meeting? You know, do you need staff? Do you need working capital to make that contract go on day one? So it's an array of services. One thing I like to say about the PTAC, it's a relationship. It's not one transaction, right? We're with you from day one till you decide, hey, I want to sell the company and cash in. So what's the process? So you heard me mention Michelle Harris, very important part of our team because that's your first point of contact. And so what she would need from you are two documents. First and foremost, a capability statement, and then of course the business plan. So for those of you that, you know, may need some help with that, we offer some tools. We even have one of our workshops is on capability statements because we know that's kind of getting your foot in it. That's the resume of the business. Then once you are a client of PTAC, the first thing we're going to do is that initial assessment where we just want to see, you know, through a series of questions where you are in the procurement readiness process. Once we've done that, then it's time now to start identifying your acquisition strategy. You know, are you all federal? Are you an 8A that you want to go after 8A or HubZone business? Or are you a recently new CBE who wants to really, you know, dive into the DC pool? You know, the Green Book is going to be coming out soon, the fiscal year 2022, where there's going to be a $1.1 billion out there in procurement. So there's plenty of work for us to do, and there's plenty of work out there for you to get. How to prepare to sell to the government? So that's what we do. I mean, every meeting is around preparing you, planning, and positioning you. And part of that positioning is the training. You know, I've seen people go into trainings. Earl had a great training on pricing proposals. And I've seen some of my clients who sat in that, who now feel like they're in a better position because of that training they went through. They feel like their price is better. And now they understand why they didn't win initially. And then, of course, we have to pursue the contracts. And what we try and do is make sure that you're on target for timelines. You know, a lot of times we get so caught up and so busy as small business owners, we miss dates. And so we can't have that. So we try and give you some tools to make sure those things don't happen. Acquisition and proposal strategy. So we've got to understand the contracting rules. You know, one of the first things I do, especially for my CBEs, is make sure they understand the rules for a CBE. What are the spend, right? So for example, how many CBEs out there today know that, you know, a DC government contract over 250,000, 35% must go to a CBE. Well, last time I checked, 35% of $1 million is $350,000. I need to know that, right? So we want to make sure that we understand the contracting rules and regulations. Of course, if you need help with your marketing plan, any proposal assistance, I mentioned that earlier, we want to do that. And then, of course, the post-award and pre-award process. Now, let's say you've won the contract. Now the real work starts because now you have to perform the contract. So we want to walk with you every step of the way. Again, it's a relationship, not a transaction. So once we've had that kickoff meeting with that contracting officer and we're starting day one, you know, we should be meeting with you monthly, quarterly, whatever is appropriate to make sure that you stay on task so that that option year is renewed and you continue to count money. So how do PTACs work with prime contractors? Well, first of all, I think it's important that we do, especially in our climate of DC government. A prime would have to, if the contract is over 250, find a CBE subcontractor for 35%. So it's important for us to connect primes with our clients and most importantly with our CBEs. We also want to help those primes to understand, you know, and interpret the complex process of government contracting because they don't have all the answers. And so we love to work with primes and make them clients as well. Of course, we also want to we want to assist identifying qualified small business to meet any socioeconomic goals. So while the CBE program is race and gender neutral, there are some federal government programs out there like the 8A program that we could surely steer you in the right direction, help you to achieve that application and getting approved for the 8A, and we'd be right there with you on that one. And then, of course, we want to collaborate and put primes together with our government agencies to help small business. So just a couple tools that we still use, some old, some new, but a business card is still a staple. I've given out 4 already today at the MLK library. It still works, right? It's got my contact information on it so that we can keep the conversation going. An elevator pitch. This is something I do in my initial assessment. I always have the client do an elevator pitch just so that they can see, you know, I want to hear, like, what do you do? You know, if you're ever in front of the government, what do you do? Capability statement. So a capability statement, that's one of the first tools that we need. Well, you need that in order to even become a PTAC client. We've got to have that capability statement. But we also got tools to help you strengthen your capability statement, and we'd be glad to share those with you. Website. Got to have a website, right? And we do some things, give you some tools and tips that help you to make sure that that website is government procurement friendly. So we just want to make sure that we get that done as well. Let's see. BetaSAM, of course, betasam.gov for those firms who want to do federal government business. We absolutely positively will help you register with SAM. That's one of the things we do in the initial assessment. Social media profiles. So like I said, my colleague Sheila just did an outstanding workshop on social media and how to use social media to grow your presence and to grow your business. And of course, the dynamic small business search, more for our federal clients, but still a tool that is out there. Just a few other websites that I use all the time. SBA.gov is a go-to. But DSLBD's website, dslbd.dc.gov, any information that you would need to know about the CBE process, how especially the application process is there. And then another place that PTAC clients spend a lot of time is on OCP's website, the Office of Contract Procurement, and that is at ocp.dc.gov. So again, this is a pre-pandemic shot of what we used to do, and now we're doing it virtually. But it still remains the same, is that we partner with our government agencies for joint outreach events to promote agency small business initiatives. So the long and short of that is, I'm sitting in the DC library today. That would be a great partner for us to have their procurement team come out, meet with small businesses, and talk about how do we do business with the library, right? So as things open back up, we'll get back to doing that live. But for right now, virtual's working, and we're able to get the word out there. Of course, we also want to assist businesses in understanding the complex government standards and contract requirements. One of the first things I do when a client sends me a solicitation is we thoroughly go through it, because I want to make sure that you can do this work, right? And you have to read it very thoroughly and find out, what is the government's pain point? What are they really buying? And what solution can you offer? So that, that's a brief kind of snippet of what we do. I do want to go through, before I take the questions, I did want to just mention sort of a checklist, an eligibility checklist of the things that we'd be looking for. So of course, I'd say one was capability statement and business plan. We also need, firm would need to have a DUNS number. We also are looking for firms that have knowledge and or experience with government contracting. We look for firms that have been in business for 6 months. And of course, you have to have all of the DCRA, that's the Department of Consumer Regulatory Affairs, licensings and registrations. So Kate, I'm happy to open up for questions if there are any.
Wonderful. There is a question in the chat, and at this time I want to invite anyone else who has questions to definitely be putting those into the chat. We definitely have some time for Q&A, and I have some additional questions as well. We also have one call-in user, so when we get through any questions in the chat, we will give you a request to unmute. So the first question is, how can I, or where can I find out if a company has used my CBE certification without my authority? I had a company ask me for it and mentioned they wanted to ask me first, since the license number is public information. Is there a better way to safeguard that? And this might be a question, Keith, if you're not ready to answer this, I'm happy to provide some questions as well, because I know this is this looks like a compliance topic. How does that affect CBEs if it's ever used unauthorized?
Yeah, so absolutely. The way I would answer it is I would start with our compliance division. That's where I would start. And the compliance division, I believe if you go to our website and you look under the compliance division, they have an email address set up just for inquiries like that. If you do not find that, don't hesitate to reach out and I'll be glad to point you in the right direction.
Thank you for that, Keith. So Keith, another question is we are waiting to see if we have any more questions in the chat, and I'll go ahead and unmute our call-in user. When you are meeting with clients, what are some of the things that people first do when they start working with PTAC? What are some of the first assessments that they might be doing so that they can really put their business in a different track?
Sure. So the first thing I do is I look for, can they tell their story written and verbally? So that means that capability statement is the written, that's the firm's resume. And then remember I talked about that elevator pitch. Can they tell me what they're selling, right? Can they convey to the government that this is what I'm selling? These are the solutions that I can offer to the government, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if they are a CBE, I kind of go through and look at their NIGP codes. What codes do they have? What codes do they need to have? What categories do they have? And the categories are really important in the CBE because the categories, those points, turn into percentage of discount. So when bidding on a contract, they need to be fully aware not only of their firm's points, but their competition's points. So those are kind of the first two things that I target.
Thank you for that. Someone has asked if you can restate the checklist of items needed to start working with PTAC. And if you could say a little bit about, you know, how people, if they need to work through those items, like where they can go for support on that.
Absolutely. So first, in business, 6 months to a year, right? So that's easily proven with their certificate of organization or their business license, that sort of thing. Their DUNS number, you know, that one's kind of, you know, cut and dry. You either have a DUNS number or you don't. And so if they don't have one, we surely can point them in the direction where to go get one. The DCRA licenses and registrations. So for that one, you know, first of all, you'd have to be registered to do business in DC, and then that enables you to get a business license. So if you're having trouble with that, we can point you in the right direction over at DCRA. The business plan and capability statement, we have tools and templates that can help with that. And all you would have to do is reach out. And I'd be glad to send those out to you and walk you through some of the things. One of the things I try and do is make sure that the firm has multiple capability statements and they're okay with having multiple. I think that that's real important because what you say on the federal capability statement, you may or may not say on that DC government capability statement. And then lastly, just knowledge and experience of the government contracting. We'll be able to get a good read on that in our initial assessment, just to see, you know, do you have contracts already with the government? If you don't have contract, have you bidded on a contract? Have you put together a proposal? Maybe there was something in a prior life in a different job that you did some sort of government contracting work. So we'll be able to gauge that.
Wonderful. And another question that came in, actually on a different channel, but does DCPTAC do any work directly with prime contractors who are seeking CBEs or subcontractors? And do you do any work with agencies? How would an agency work with the DCPTAC if they were also interested, as you mentioned before, in thinking about how they better connect with small and local businesses?
All of the above. Great question. So let me tackle the prime first. So of course, the primes, we love working with primes. Usually a more mature firm who's already, you know, got a few contracts under their belt. But if that prime is doing work in DC, when with the DC government, they're going to need a CBE. So it is, you know, good for all parties that we're communicating and working together on that one so that we can link the two entities and make sure that everybody would eat on that transaction. As far as the agencies, that's another great place for us to work. And one of the things we're trying to do, I think I used the library as the example, but I could use any agency as the example where we could come in. Let's say an agency has a large solicitation out there. And, you know, let's say it's an IT solicitation, you know, between myself and my colleagues, we've got, you know, I'm sure over 100 clients as IT clients who'd love to be in front of that agency so that we could connect them and make sure that we know how to do business with that agency.
Wonderful. There's a long question that came in on the chat that I'm going to read. I have years of experience as an independent consultant as a systems analyst. I've been incorporated and I've had a DUNS number for years. Now I want to become a government contractor, but I have never needed a business plan or anything similar previously. Can PTAC help me with the business plan and capability statement? How can I get the ball rolling on that?
Absolutely. I don't know who that is, but they need to send an email to keith.howard, the number 3 at dc.gov, and they will have those templates this afternoon. And I'd love to work with them.
So Keith, I have another question.
The templates are very, very easy, by the way, Kate. Let me just chime in on the template for a second. The templates are really straightforward. I think it's a great tool, especially on the business plan side, because sometimes when you Google business plans, it looks daunting and overwhelming. When you see the template that we use, it's pretty straightforward. It's not a heavy lift at all, but it still is thought provoking and it provides clarity for your firm and how you're trying to convey the message of your firm.
So Keith, I have a more generalized question, which is, we sometimes meet CBEs or other businesses that are feeling very frustrated. Maybe they have been registered for a while, they aren't sure how to break in, they've been trying to break in, and they don't know what to do. What advice do you have for them?
Well, I believe this. Since I've been working with the PTAC, I've seen my colleagues really take companies from, ground zero and that frustration word, because we've all done it before already, to multi-million-dollar companies. Now, for myself specifically, coming from certification, where I'm usually with that new CBE from day one. So I've already heard their frustration just getting their CBE. So I know what that feels like. I know what that pain feels like. I also know, being a former business owner, what it feels like to not have revenue coming in. I know what those things feel like. And that comes through when I provide a client session. But here's what I would say to them, is that what we do is we sort of organize, right? We are that business management consultant that they can't afford. We fill that void. And I'm very passionate about small business and very passionate about the success of small business, having been one myself. So that's right up our alley. That's what we do. That's who we are. We do it every day. And whether it's me or one of my colleagues or even our manager, who Milton will jump right in. He's a former entrepreneur himself. He'll jump right in if we are getting frustrated that we can't get the help or the work for this client. He will jump in on a call with us and help us push us through. But I can tell you, I've watched my colleagues and me. We thrive on that sort of environment. Like, that's what we do. That's what we like, is taking that person who is frustrated and, methodically, I wouldn't even say slowly, but methodically organizing them. Almost, the word counseling, I like to say client, because we're in business. We're not counseling them, but we are really walking them through the process of growing their business. And government procurement, it's not intuitive, right? It's so not intuitive. But to have someone on the PTAC team in your corner, and it's no cost, that's win-win for you all day long. So whomever that person is with that, I feel your frustration, and I hope I get to work with you.
Keith, thank you for that. I do want to put one last call to everyone who is on the line in case you have any additional questions. Please do put them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to ask a wrap-up question for Keith, which is about scheduling with the division to become a client. So if someone has scheduled in the past, maybe years ago, and maybe either that dropped off or they never fully became scheduled as a PTAC client, maybe they weren't ready at that time. What words of advice do you have to them today for becoming that PTAC client today, and anything else that you'd like to wrap the session up with?
Absolutely. So if they are already a PTAC client and they just haven't reached out to their specialist lately, or they haven't connected, I would recommend they reach out to their specialist and reconnect. If they don't know or don't remember who their specialist is, they would want to reach out to Michelle Harris to get reconnected. If they are not a PTAC client, then your first stop is Michelle Harris with your capability statement and your business plan. And then she will get you over to one of us, and we'll go through the necessary registration process to make you a PTAC client. Kate, the last thing I would say, one is, again, thank you and your team for allowing this moment to happen. I want to thank all the people that are on the call, and I hope that I get to meet them and work with them. And then lastly, I'll just leave you with a quote about your mind, and that your mind is like a parachute, and it really only works when it's open.
Thank you so much, Keith. Thank you for everyone who joined us. I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording, but we'll stay on for just another couple minutes in case there are any more questions, and so that people could copy anything that they want to out of the chat.